Ahí está. Okay. Mm, okay. Almost. We're receiving just a few more guests. They're coming in. There we go. Okay, so Lore. Good evening and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third day of the sixth edition of Paraguay Speaks. I would like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands from where we are all gathered here today and pay our respect to our elders past, present, and emerging. And welcome everyone to the webinar on the next generation solutions for youth empowerment and sustainable growth. And this event is now live on the PSA Facebook page and is also being recorded for our YouTube channel. And this webinar over here aims to demonstrate how connecting communities with shared challenges through innovative solutions such as YEP and indigenous co-design can enhance community participation and resilience. And it is meant to highlight the key outcomes, including improved engagement and the successful implementation of these initiatives. So following this presentation, there will be a space for questions for our lecturer. And please feel free to write down any question you have in the chat box or by pressing into the Q&A box. And without any more preambles, I would like to introduce our speaker, Lorena. Lorena, nice to meet you. Okay, so Lorena Ríos is a dynamic leader with over a decade of experience in advancing social and economic development across Latin America, Qatar, and Australia. And holding a Master of Development Studies from the University of Melbourne, she specializes in creating impactful projects that address critical social, environmental, and cultural issues. Lorena leverages her expertise in international relations and extensive global network to secure funding and attract opportunities for development and commercial projects, significantly benefiting Paraguay. And she also leads the highly successful pilot program Youth Pathways Employment Program, which opens doors for disadvantaged youth from CALD communities and plays a key role in Foundations for Tomorrow, developing a roadmap for the future policy brief. Lorena's global influence is further demonstrated by her transformative work with indigenous communities in both Australia and Paraguay. And known for her exceptional ability to connect diverse stakeholders and her unwavering commitment to social justice, Lorena is dedicated to driving meaningful change and promoting sustainable development worldwide. Okay, so Lorena, thank you so much for being here with us today. Welcome to our sixth edition of Paraguay Speaks, and we're ready when you are.
Thank you very much, Luisa. Hello to everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Congratulations for this initiative, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share a little bit of the work that we are doing, but also how between these two countries, Paraguay and Australia, we can work together and maybe also give the opportunity to young people to, to grow and have a better life. So I'm more than happy to share today. So if you can share the presentation, so I will explain a little bit what it's about.
Right away. There we go. Here, let's see. Okay, we're there. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah. Thank you very much. So as you know, Paraguay and Australia, through geographically distance and culturally distance, encounter parallel challenges in empowering their youth. Both nations grapple with issues related to access to quality of education, employment opportunities, mental health issues, particularly among their rural and indigenous populations. In Paraguay, limited access to educational resources and high rates of early school dropouts hinder youth potential, while Australia faces disparities in opportunities for indigenous and cultural and linguistically diverse communities. These shared challenges offer a unique opportunity for mutual learning and collaboration. By examining and addressing these issues, these common issues, both countries can develop innovative solutions that enhance youth empowerment and promote sustainable growth. So today is about speaking about the unemployment rate that is across the world, but specifically I will focus on the unemployment rate of youth in Australia and Paraguay. So if you can move in the next slide, please. Yeah, the next.
Yep. Back here. There we go.
Yes, perfect. So as you can see, Paraguay, the youth unemployment rates in Paraguay are significantly higher than the national average. Youth unemployment often range between 15 to 20% compared to the overall unemployment rate that is around to 6 to 7%. And in Australia, the youth unemployment it's lower than in Paraguay, but it's still higher than the national average. Youth unemployment typically hovers around 10 to 12%, while the national unemployment rate is approximately 4 to 5. Next step. Next. So I want to focus in these slides, just as I said before, I want to focus in the rural youth and also in indigenous communities. And why this? Because coming from a rural community, I'm not just sharing these numbers. I was part of this kind of issues related to unemployment rates in youth in Paraguay. So basically, most of the rural and indigenous youth have challenges for quality of education, vocational training, and also job opportunities. Why this? Because you have, you are living in a remote communities where most of the, I can say, educational systems or universities are in the capital or in the most urban areas that usually you can't attend there because you have economic issues, you have disadvantage in terms of transportation and access to these services. And another factor is that also, unluckily, in Paraguay, we have 60% of an informal employment workforce. That also, what that's mean for young generation, lack of job security, social benefits, but also a lot of economic vulnerability. Next slide, please. And in comparison with the youth in Australia, we see that in Australia, the unemployment is about, I said 10 to 12%, but still like regional Australia and those that live in remote communities have very similar issues within, socioeconomic barriers, lower educational alignment, and also a social inequality, and sometimes also some discriminations. In this also, I will add the coal communities that are new, I can say migrants or different cultural backgrounds that are already Australians, but there are lack of these kind of networks and opportunities. And sometimes, the job availability are also a big issue in terms of opportunities for this young generation. The next slide. So to enhance or how we can address these issues, I just want to illustrate some projects that I'm part of, but also I was part of, that it was very successful. And it's mean that sometimes we need to think very creatively and bring all the actors, all the players together to really, kind of like understand what are the needs there and how we can support these communities. Especially, I will focus this with an indigenous community that is in Paraguay, and I'm working with them over the last 12 years. And 2 years ago, we established a motorcycle mechanics training course. How does it work? So basically, the requests coming from the community, it wasn't that I said, okay, you need to learn how to fix a motorbike, or you need to learn how to build a house. No, this was a request from the community that I'm very proud of how we approach this, because basically we identify all the needs. And after that, we think what will be the priorities. And we choose that most of the people in the community have motorcycles, and they lack of, I can say, a knowledge of how they fix or how they or what are the names of each part of the motorcycle. So what a wonderful idea was to work with this community and understand that needs. And after that, have the conversation with the private sector that have a motorbike manufacturer, and they provide us from the course, reading, the mechanic who came to the community and basically came every 2 weeks for 6 months to teach them how they can fix the motorbike. After that, we have around 20 members, 20 young people between, like, I can say intergenerational people that attend the class, and also they learn how to fix this motorbike. But it's not just how to fix. We also discovered that they're entrepreneurs. So after that, 2 of the indigenous that was part of the course, they opened a small mechanic store, I can say, where today it's working, and they are offering these services to all the I can say people who live in Rosario. And they can, use these facilities. So we are very proud of this community, that how they really identify this need, and how with the support of the civil society, the private sector, they can, get this insight and also these new skills to have a better life, I can say, because also through that they, increase the economic resources, the knowledge, and they feel part of this construction and also example to other young people and families in the community. So so if we can pass to another one, and I will explain about the initiative that we are working here in Australia. So here, basically, if you go in the picture, before, you can see how was the process. So basically, in the first photo, they were already in the manufacturer, the motorcycle manufacturer. But in the others, you can see in their own community, they received this traineeship. So it was very, very interesting case. So if we move to another, this was in the manufacturer. And then now I want to focus in this project that also I'm very excited about it. And it's really targeted. So we are working with the program called Youth Employment Pathway Program. And we are working with young people with age 15 to 24 years old. They are connected to Northwest Melbourne. And also these young people are, unemployment or underemployed. Their lack of network. They also have barriers to employment. And really like kind of lack of, I can say, skills to get into the job. So what we are doing with this program is connecting them with the industry. So Australia have a program called Transition to Work. So basically, they already have companies that have a skill shortage. So their aim to connect the young people that are out school or they finish school and they are ready to work. So what we are doing here is trying to help the young people to get, the hard and soft skills and get ready for these jobs that are focused on civil construction, aviation, parks and garden, all these kind of industries that are having a skill shortages. So from the beginning, we are working around with 12 to 15 young people from these ages, and we are seeing the transformation through the classes and also how they are performance in their jobs, and how through this kind of program you can see what are the challenges of these communities, the coal communities, the indigenous people that lack of these kind of networks, but also the connection of these communities. So through this course, I just want to point out how important is where you have the government that have already the assistant that identify these kind of needs and are working in collaboration with other civil society and also private sector industries to really address the problem that is the unemployment rate, but in a very kind of youth-centered approach, and very kind of trying to support them in all the, kind of the soft skills that sometimes is very hiding and like we are not taking care of. So this is experience for these two experiences that I was explaining a little bit, I have a video that I want to share that if you can share, please, Luisa, I will really appreciate. So if everyone interested can watch that in their own time. And if have any questions, please just let me know, and I'm more than happy to share any insight of best practices.
Okay, so Lorde, would you like me to transmit it right now, or would you like me to just send the link in so that they can watch it?
I think just send the link, please.
Okay, no worries. Let's see. Okay, so there we have two of the links.
Thank you.
So, okay, no worries.
Thank you. If we can move on to the next slide, please. This is just a little bit of the photos of the young people. Yeah, thank you. And now I want to just point out a little bit of the common challenges. After these experiences, we can identify that both countries have similar challenges. These are access to quality of education and training. Both countries struggle with providing sufficient access to education and vocational training for youth, particularly for marginalized communities. Because as I said, most of these solutions, or I can say facilities, are in the urban areas. So I'm very focused when I say in common challenge is more for rural and indigenous community that are living in remote communities. And in this, you have also lack of connectivity, internet, maybe equipment, kind of like computers, mobile phones, a smartphone, etc. And then you have economic and social barriers. So as I say, poverty, lack of infrastructure, and social exclusions is kind of like similar challenges that face Paraguay and Australia. And then another thing that it's very distinct in nowadays is the mental health concern. So a lot of young people, and this is, it doesn't matter what is the status of the young people, are having a mental health issues that it's really worrying me, because when we are having this conversation with them, you feel like behind that they have a lot of family issues, but also this kind of loneliness, the lack of network, they are not having friends. So how we can address that as well as a one topic that have to be we need to address in terms of like why we are having the unemployment rate very high, and and what we can do as a community or as an individual, which is people that we meet on the street, and not just judge them and say, oh, this is not working, because sometimes we need to understand what is behind, right? And in terms of opportunities, I think that there is a shared learning. Both countries could exchange best practices for youth employment programs, especially those targeting marginalized groups. So there is between both countries and opportunities. For example, within Australia, you have the TAFE that is very targeted, and a lot of young people, they're not going directly to universities, but they can do like a technical course where they can be able to get a job in a specific sector. And then also a joint initiative, potential for collaboration with, as I said, with educational exchange programs. For example, the things that we are doing between, a scholarship instead of Paraguay, Becal, and Australia, the University of Melbourne. So this is our kind of example of how we can collaborate each other and really kind of change the life of the young generation. Yeah, can we move? The next slide, please. Yeah, and this is just kind of like just call to action. Again, it's like what we can do as a society, no as Lorena or I think as a society between two countries, Paraguay and Australia, we really need to take the time and reflect What are the best practices or the best things that we are doing as a country? Because both countries have a good example of things that we can share and we can learn, and also we can use to address this challenge. Especially, again, I said for rural and indigenous community, that from my experience and having this kind of conversation with them, I can understand what are the main barriers that they have, and how we can address these problems together. So for that, I said that foster educational partnership between both countries, engage and mobilize stakeholders. So the industries are very key, the private sector is very key, but also the civil society, because the civil society can arrive in different areas that maybe sometimes the private sector can't arrive. Then also strengthens the policy dialogue. So I think it's a must to really establish spaces where we can have all the voices represented, and we can have a commonality of I can say a shared how can I say it, solutions or programs that we can address with these communities, because it's not the same living in the city with all the privilege and living in the country without of these facilities like internet and access to information. And I can use one example that I remember, a scholarship program that is run in Paraguay. They say this is for an indigenous population, but we know the indigenous population didn't receive this information. So if we are not sharing with them because they're not having the channels. So they think how we can create these kind of policies that can really enhance that. And then promote collaborative research. So taking into account a lot of students that came to Australia, or I believe Australians that go to Latin America, go to Paraguay, how we can really use this interest and try to look in this answer or better solutions to address these challenges in both countries. And then enhance cultural and indigenous exchange. I believe there, I can say it's a perfect time to work with indigenous, because I met indigenous here in Australia that are amazing. They're doing great things, but also I have a family in Paraguay that are indigenous, and they have also a lot of great things to show to the world, but we need to kind of make sure how they can, multiply this, but also how they can share that and go global. So I think there is a great opportunity as well within both countries. And then I think invest in the community development by using really this human or people-centered approach, where you are not just going to the community with, oh, this is the solution. No, let's work with the community. I think the community request is a very key, and we need to address in that way. Have to come like, the needs from the community, and then see how, as maybe key actors of the society, we can work together to really kind of support these communities in the development of the communities. Yeah. So now I'm open to questions, because I really like that. I think I would prefer to have this conversation, and maybe if there is anyone that want to ask any questions, more than happy to respond.
Okay, so thank you so much, Lordy, for that really insightful presentation. I think that most of you would agree with the thought that it is very it's very alarming in that sense how many similarities can we share with a country which is quite similar, because at first you would think that Australia and Paraguay can have little things in common when it comes to unemployment motives or numbers, and it's very alarming in the fact that it's a 10 versus a 16%. It's not that high of a difference. And I found it really interesting personally, the fact that the problem or the challenges that they face are really rooted in the same motives. It's the social, the economic barriers, the education, and the training barriers, as you mentioned. And I also found it very, very insightful, the mental health issues, how it's very interesting, the fact that you can find those motives across in those completely different countries. So health issues as well being one of the challenges and one of the motives behind of the high unemployment among the youth. So if I think that we have, let's see, some questions. Yes, we have one over here. It says, could you think of any initiative similar to the motorbike one that could potentially work in other remote areas in Paraguay, such as indigenous communities far in the Chaco, and that could involve different stakeholders, such as the primary sector, such as bee farmers and or other industries?
Yeah, could you repeat again, please?
Yes. Could you think of any initiative similar to the motorbike one that could potentially work in other remote areas in Paraguay, such as indigenous communities in the Chaco, that could involve different stakeholders, such as the primary sector, which are the beef farmers and our other industries?
Totally. I think I like these questions, especially because firstly, you need to understand what is about this indigenous community. Each indigenous community have a particularity, like not everyone is good in agriculture, not everyone is good in livestock, for example. Because as you can see, some of them are, for example, they enjoy, they're really good in handicraft and all this creativity. So I believe the potential of them is how you can work in a public policy that can give them the technical skills to support that in the region. Because we have, like in the Chaco region, we have a lot of challenges, like water scarcity, and then you have housing, and then how they can arrive to this kind of farming as well. The access, can they drive? All these kind of factors that I believe, if we think together, it would be great if we can, for example, create a course, I can say as a TAFE, bringing TAFE example of training courses to Paraguay, and really that have to be a public, a public policy that they can have a certificate where they have this work, and they can kind of have the training, and after have this kind of opportunity to work. And there, I think also we need to think about the informal work that there is in Paraguay is a big issue, and especially in these kind of sectors. So how we make sure this indigenous population receive enough information, and also they are kind of safe, that they will receive the best also education and be part of this kind of workforce for the livestock or farming.
Okay, great. So we have another one here in the chat box as well. It says, how could the Minister for First Nations Australians collaborate with the Paraguayan government to leverage Australia's experience and strategies in addressing youth unemployment and educational disparities? And what specific initiatives could be developed to effectively share knowledge and resources?
Oh, I love it. I think there is a lot of opportunity, especially with a very structured partnership focused in sharing both experiences. Maybe one would be a bilateral knowledge exchange program, where you have a formalized program where Australian experts in Indigenous education and employment initiative share their approaches with the Paraguayan counterparts. This could involve regular exchange between policymakers, educators, youth advocates, and both online and through in-person visits. So I think because from having the opportunity to visit so many, I can say all the Paraguay already, I've found that Australia have very similar in terms of landscape environment. So it will be very interesting to see professionals having these exchange programs between both countries, and especially indigenous, that are very well prepared, and they're ready to kind of share and maybe enhance their knowledge. So one of the I can say from Australia that I really like and can be a potential is the program from the Queensland. Let me just think about it. So there is so the Queensland for Youth, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander project people. Sorry, I think this is a really good example because they are like kind of like preparing. So basically, they're in the process of finishing the high school and looking towards seeking further education. So this is a program that benefits, you know, the youth, like that are looking to jobs, connecting them with cultural capital service, supporting the young person to prepare the resume. And also they support instead of like the mental health program. So I believe if we have the opportunity to work with the Minister of First Nation, that would be a great initiative that we can be easily implemented in Paraguay, but also the targeted industries for these communities.
Great. We have one other question. It says, if you were able to run programs like Australian TAFE for Indigenous people in Paraguay, and they would become skilled handcrafts, would it be possible to commercialize all the products? Or how do you address commercializing all of them?
Yeah, of course. I think we can address that. Especially, we need to think our curriculum at school. Is this curriculum really kind of help the young people to get what their employers are looking for? Because we are having, so we finish school and these young people don't have enough tools, I can say, to go to the workforce. So I believe that if we can identify what are the skill shortages in Paraguay, what the industry are looking for, if we are doing just this small research, and we work together with the I can say the educational system, because have to be again, this have to be a policy, have to be coming from the Minister of Education, where we have this technical skill as part of the, you know, as the university. But what happened in Paraguay, we are not having this this middle, I can say, technical skill that can allow to the people say that, I know I'm professional electricians or I'm professional in civil construction. So how we can make sure to do that? So I believe if we are like having similar as the TAFE model, will be very, I can say, profitable, and also can be the chance to these young people to get the job, and also the employer will make sure that the young people at least have the capabilities and enough you know, knowledge to really performance the job.
Thank you so much, Lore. I think that we don't have any more questions. One more here in the chat. Yes. It says, is there a market for indigenous art and crafts from communities in Australia and Paraguay? If so, how are these communities accessing those markets, and what challenges do they face in expanding their reach?
I think there's a potential, especially in they share a lot of similar way of doing handicraft. So they use the palm, they use all the natural resources, I can say, and they have the commonality there. However, as we can see here, they really admire the Aboriginal arts. So you are having, like, even I can just put an example. The government are saying that if you are running an event, it's kind of like you need to, like, you have different options of, I can say, artists, and I can say Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal. So basically, most of the people will go for the Aboriginal because you have the priority and you need to kind of support these communities. So I think in having this kind of law or of buying things, there is an opportunity of market. And again, related to your question is, there is a potential, but again, how we can make sure that collaborate and both can have the opportunity to sell these products. So I don't know if I answered your question, but basically, I believe that here, especially, there is a lot of artists. There are communication agencies. There are artists that are doing an artwork, and they are unofficial businesses. So I think the opportunity of sharing this knowledge with Paraguayans that, I can say, lack of these business skills, we can make sure that they can compete in a good way of sharing this knowledge. or how they improve, how they, for example, commercialize bread, for example. They're using the kangaroo grass, for example. One of the uncle, Bruce Pasco, he's using the kangaroo grass to sell to the best bakery to make bread, for example. So we have the same in Paraguay. A lot of people are using I forgot the name of the flour from the Chaco region. That basically they process that and they use that as a wheat as well to do to produce bread. So I believe there is a lot of opportunities and really good examples that can be kind of exchanged and implemented in both countries.
We have two more questions here. The difficulty of working with indigenous people is helping them to get jobs, but not changing their culture and saying that they are westernized. How do you handle this situation?
And I think this is a big issue, especially because as we are working in I can say a globalized world, we need to empower them. We need to say that the indigenous community need to preserve their culture. And this is, for example, when I'm working with them, is that especially the new generation, they said that the Western is much better than their own culture. Why that? Because a lot of challenges before, they lack of, sometimes they feel discriminated. So this is the big issue. They feel because they are like, I don't know, the way how they dress, they are, they're not a good people. Things like that. So they have a lot of, there is a lot of prejudice in the society that make them fear and make them not being them, right? So I believe the main issue is that we need more indigenous that are proud of being indigenous and they can really enhance their own culture. But also as a Western, I can say, we need to say them that we admire you and you are important and all your knowledge is very rich. Because it happened to me. I work with them and always when I go there, I get more knowledge. Like I feel like I'm basically like I don't know anything. That's they can give me the kind of knowledge or when I'm sharing related to food, related to living. So I believe that we need to empower that, and it's not good to see that you modernize or the communities. So yeah, so that would be my response to this question.
And we have another one. What are the sources of funding for initiatives that support indigenous communities?
Where?
What are the sources?
The sources. What are the sources of
funding for initiatives that support indigenous communities?
So I think this is what I say where, like in Paraguay or in Australia. So basically there is a lot of kind of opportunities in terms of I can say arts, related to arts, related to I can say skill development. Another thing will be in terms of innovations in housing, innovations in water and sanitation. I can say food sustainability, environment. So there is a lot of opportunities on sources for funding for these kind of sectors. And again, I think also the wisdom of the indigenous, I think will have some sources for funding.
Okay, perfect. I think that was our last question. So for everyone in the audience, you will find in the chat box the two links for the videos that Lorena showed as part of her testimony. And if there are no further questions, okay, so I think not. Let me check. No, I think that was the last one. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much, Lore, for your time, for such an insightful and really rich presentation. I think that I'm speaking in behalf of all of us when we say that it has been very, very interesting looking at how much we can resemble a country like Australia in that sense. So thank you so much for your time and being here. And thank you so much for the audience, for all the questions and the amazing panelists of this conference so far. I would like to remind everyone that you can watch this session again on our YouTube channel. And with this, we finish our set of conferences of Paraguay Speaks 2024. And we hope to see you all again next year. So thank you so much, Lorde. And bye to the rest of you. I don't know if you want to wave. We say
Thank
goodbye.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.